Welcome to Lynnwood Election Watch 2015. I'm your host, Teresa Wippel. In the studio, we have Chris Frizzell, who is candidate for Lynnwood City Council Position 5. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'd love to have you tell our audience more about yourself and why you're running for Lynnwood City Council.
Well, I grew up in Lynnwood, went to Meadowdale High School, and I never gave the city much thought. Last fall, I attended Lynnwood University, which is a great 8-week class put on by the city. And they bring in speakers from all sectors of the city, be it public works, parks and rec, fire department. We also got to do some really cool field trips. We got to shoot the hoses with the firemen. We got to visit the jail. And probably the least favorite but most memorable is we visited the poop plant.
Oh, and that would be the treatment plant, I'm guessing?
That would be.
All right.
So I probably know more about that than most people now.
Something that most people don't really want to think about or talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good.
After that, I started going to city council meetings, and I found them very interesting. And I've just kept it up, and now I've been going to diversity and meetings, finance committee meetings, planning commission meetings. I've read through a big part of the comprehensive plan. I'm very excited about where Lynnwood is going, and I'm excited where the mayor is taking us. And as we had different speakers come into Lynnwood University, there's a lot of passion from the employees of the city and from the various departments. And with my accounting background, I think that I can come aboard and really look at the numbers, make sure that the numbers make sense, not just from a budget perspective, but from taxes and a growth perspective. So I'm excited to put my skills to use.
Well, you're in luck because a number of these questions I have here are dealing with money and budget and taxes. So
great.
Here we go. The first one is related to the city and Snohomish County Fire District 1, who are considering the idea of possibly consolidation. And this is something that has been brought up in the past. Right now, the city of Lynnwood has its own fire department, which the neighboring cities are already contracted with Fire District 1, Edmonds and Mount Lake Terrace. So do you have a position on that idea at this time, or what kinds of things would you look at, especially as a finance person, in considering that kind of idea?
I have had a conversation with the chief and discussed it enough to know that there's a lot more to be discussed. I'd like to know why things didn't work out for us to do that in the past. I'd like to know what the numbers look like. How much is it going to save us? How much is it going to cost us? Are we going to have a decrease in services? Are we going to have an increase in services? There's so many factors that I'm itching to get into those numbers. And the chief sounds like he's got a great plan because he's planning some public meetings and it really wants to hear from the citizens as to where they'd like to go with it. But his idea of sharing resources sounds like a great cost-saving measure, but I'm not sure where the rest of the numbers lie.
Okay, that's great. And my understanding is he was in a regionalized program where he came from in California, and that's one of the reasons why he was interested in it. So
that's my understanding too.
Be interested to hear where it all goes. And speaking of the fire department, one of the things that has come up is the fact that Lynnwood is growing, and there's growth. With growth comes additional fire services. So if the regionalization does not take place, what kinds of ideas do you think might need to come up regarding new revenue to cover those costs?
Well, there's talk of annexation, but again, we have to look and see if those numbers make sense, because as we annex more individuals into the city, we need more services,
right.
And services cost money. And nobody likes to pay more taxes. I don't like paying my property taxes. I don't like paying taxes on my utilities. I think we need to see where we can cut. There's a new concept within the city council called budgeting for outcomes, and the city council took an affirmative vote on that within the last couple of months. And the idea there is to budget based upon what we're going to get for our money. And again, that's another area that I just really want to dig into. Ian Cotton is the council member that brought that to the table, and he's recommended a couple of books to me, which I'm plowing my way through to see where I fit in with that plan and to see how I can help assist that and really make it happen.
Okay. There was another issue that has come up just recently, and that is a vote by the council to ban marijuana operations in the city. And my understanding from reading some of the background is that was as much a vote of not receiving enough support from the state to offset some of the costs that legalization would bring to bear, and not so much a vote against marijuana in the city, although I'm sure there's different opinions on that. But how are you willing to revisit if the state does come through with some support for the cities on this, which I understand they're talking about? Is that something that you have a feeling about one way or the other in terms of? Yes. Oh, I'd like to hear it.
I spoke in front of the Planning Commission before they brought this to the City Council, and I spoke in front of the City Council regarding this. And I did a lot of research, and again, coming from a numbers standpoint, we have issues between the federal government versus the state government, whether or not those retail operations can safely deposit their money into local banks. We have issues as to what type of clientele it will attract and if we will need resources for that. There's a lot of concern, which was also voiced at the City Council, as to how much we need in resources to pay for our children's impact, the impact that marijuana is having on our kids already, and we're very short time period into legalizing marijuana. I understand we want to accommodate this because it's a law, and therefore we should accommodate it. But I think we need to do it in a reasonable fashion, and I think we need to do it after some of these numbers get worked out. And as I did my research, and I had spent a couple hours just going from website to website, the bottom line is that no one has registered with the Liquor Control Board to even do business inside the city of Lynnwood. So it's a non-issue. And I'm hoping that before someone does go to Liquor Control Board and go through all of their paperwork to become a retail outfit, that some of those things will be worked out. And by then, maybe the state will be sharing revenues to accommodate the cities for the disparity there.
Okay. Well, the next question is, the city is considering a possible transportation measure for the fall ballot that would include raising sales tax and reducing vehicle tab fees. And I wondered if that would be something that you would support.
I like that the city has to go to the voters to increase taxes. But I think we need a better approach to that, not just raising taxes for the point of raising taxes so that we have more revenue. One thing that I really like that Ian Cotton has come up and brought to the council is budgeting for outcomes. And we need to see where those increased tax dollars translate specifically for the purpose that we are raising the taxes. And the voters need to know what the pros and the cons are for raising taxes or letting them stay where they are. I think that's important for each of us to know where those dollars come and go.
Right. And the purpose for that kind of a measure would be to help with street repairs and things like that, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And, it's just like at our homes. If we don't maintain things, they go to pieces. If you've got a leak in your roof and you don't take care of it, pretty soon you got to put on a whole new roof. And some of those issues are coming up with our streets because they haven't been maintained, such as in our homes. The refrigerator breaks, the kids need new shoes, new baseball gear, whatever, so we don't do the maintenance that needs to be done. And we need to apply that same principle to the city streets and everything that has to do with the city, whether it's buildings or streets or, vehicles. We need to have a better job of taking care of what we do have instead of just raising taxes. And I really don't think that that is the voice of the city council. The city council seems very preoccupied with keeping taxes down and not raising them.
Okay. And speaking of taxes, the next question is, it's been said that Lynnwood is a city too reliant on sales tax for its revenues, and I wondered if you agreed with that statement, and would you support diversifying Lynnwood's source of revenues?
I'm all for diversifying. And the idea that Lynnwood is reliant on that sales tax, I'm not sure that that's accurate. The situation that we find ourselves in is we have this wonderful Alderwood Mall. And it's a blessing and a curse. It's a curse at Christmas time when none of us can get our shopping done because we have 80,000 other people in our city. But the fact of the matter is that it does provide a lot of revenue for Lynnwood, and therefore we can keep property taxes down. We can keep utility taxes down. We have lower taxes in other areas because we do have wonderful sales tax. As far as diversifying, I'm all for that, but we need to do it in a responsible way and not just hit and miss.
Right. You know, we did these interviews a couple of years ago, and one of the candidates for Lynnwood City Council told me that we just need to embrace our inner retail, and I thought that was a pretty good statement.
That's a fine statement. I don't embrace retail very much. But
Meaning you're not a shopper.
I'm not a big shopper, but I do love Alderwood Mall. When I was in college, my uncle actually had the landscaping contract to put in all of the plants and the trees at Alderwood Mall. And one of my jobs was to go out and water them and weed those plants. And it's kind of fun now because I've become a mall walker. And I enjoy the mall in a different way. I enjoy it when there's a lot less people and the stores aren't open.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, I think, get their exercise in the morning, so that's great.
Some very friendly people out early in the morning walking.
Yeah, that's a good use for it if you're not a shopper.
Yeah.
So let's turn to a slightly different subject. The city's ethnic and immigrant populations continue to increase. What are the ways the city can involve these residents in government and provide services to them?
This is part of the city that I'm very excited about. As I read the numbers and I see where our population continues to diversify, I'm excited about that because it gives us opportunity to embrace each other's cultures, to understand and to respect those cultures. It's one reason why I've been going to diversity council meetings since October. Wonderful group of people that are on that committee. There are African Americans, there's a Filipino woman, there's a Latina woman, and they're working on finding ways to bring diversity to the surface. I went to Black History Month, which was done at the fire department, very nicely done. I went to a Holocaust remembrance celebration that was done at the senior center. We need to continue to find ways to celebrate our background, our history. Recently, I went over to Heritage Museum there in Alderwood.
That's a great place. I love that spot.
And I always thought history was for my parents' age. But actually, when I went there and I started to go through the buildings, I thought, there's Wickers. I remember going there as a child. Manor Hardware. My dad used to take me in there when he'd pick up things. There's a lot in those pictures of my childhood. And I think it's true that as we get older, our history matters more. And I'm looking forward to one day being able to show my grandkids that. But the population is going to look a lot different, and that excites me.
Now, here is a question that I remember asking a few years ago, and I don't think it ever goes away, and that is, what about those red light cameras? Is that still an issue? Are people still, do you have any feelings about that? It seems like it keeps popping up.
Yeah. I as I've gone on this journey to run for city council, I have a number of friends. I wouldn't go to Lynnwood at all. They have those red light cameras, and it saddens me that it's taken red light cameras to manage our streets. And yes, I have contributed once to the red light camera
that's all it
fund.
took, was once, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's one area that I'd like to look at the numbers and make, what I hear is that it is a revenue stream. And if we can look at that in a positive way, it's a voluntary tax.
Right.
I don't embrace the red light cameras. I'm not sold on the fact that they do or don't prevent accidents. I don't have a better answer until I can take a look at the numbers.
Okay, that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
I want to give you a chance to make a closing statement, Chris, but before we do that, we forgot early on to talk a little bit about your family. You have two daughters who graduated from Meadowdale High School, right?
I do.
And what are they doing now and all that?
My oldest daughter is a graphic designer, graphic artist. I always forget. Her business card says graphic artist and chocolate lover.
Oh, very nice.
So she works for a graphic arts company down in Woodinville, and she lives in Lake Stevens with her husband, who makes amazing knives out of pieces of steel and blocks of wood. Okay. Just some real craftsman kinds of things. And my youngest daughter is a chef. She graduated from the culinary arts program at Edmonds Community College, and she lives on Orcas Island. Oh, wow. And both my kids have animals instead of children, and so I have 3 grand cats and 1 grand dog.
Okay, very good. Well, that's great.
But my dad still lives in Lynnwood. He and I share a house in Lynnwood, and my mom's in a nursing facility up in Everett.
Okay, good. Well, great. Well, it was really a pleasure getting to know you better, and I would like you to have an opportunity now to just talk to the voters about, what your basic interests are in serving the city. So you can address the camera if you'd like to at this point.
All right. Thank you. I have some concerns for the city of Lynnwood. I'm excited that Link Light Rail is coming. I think that we need to continue to monitor how we're going to grow. I think that we need to maintain our parks. I've been out campaigning already and talking to voters, and that is a big deal for a lot of people, especially as our lot sizes seem to shrink. People still are loving the idea that we have all these fantastic parks in our city. I've worked with homeless populations for about 8 years, feeding and just ministering to people who don't have a shelter over their head, or if they are in under-resourced situations. There's been a lot of talk about what to do about homelessness. I don't have any answers. Well, I have some answers, but I don't have any defining answers. And I'm working with the Snohomish County Homeless Policy Task Force to find county-wide answers, not just city-by-city answers, so that we can have dignity for them and we can have safety for our citizens. But probably the biggest draw for why I'm running for city council has to do with the fact that I'm a numbers person. And I watched about 4 months of city council meetings where city council members went back and forth on numbers, and I know I can bring some clarity to some of those situations, and I look forward to doing that for the city of Lynnwood.
Great. Well, Chris, it was such a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you the best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you.
Position 5, and thanks again for coming on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.